Yes. Okay.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Conversation for the Curious Mind. Conversation for the Curious Mind is a production of In Search Innovation. My name is Ryan. I am one of two hosts. This is my friend, Dr. Eddie Pierre. And today we are going to be discussing the 7 rules for optimal well-being. Eddie, take her away, buddy.
Yes.
Let's start with rule 1.
Thank you very much, Ryan. Again, it's always a pleasure to share some thought with people. And as you and I were talking before we go and on the air, it's how important it is today for us to communicate and how the world is communicating. And as you mentioned earlier, that there's so many people in the world, 8 billion, and yet we're communicating in a higher level than we ever imagined or thought we would. So it's a very good thing to be able to communicate and make contact with the world.
Yeah, there's more people now than there's ever been before, and somehow we're more connected, and the earth is becoming a smaller and smaller place because of it.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful, actually.
Oh, yes.
It's another one of those beautiful things that we're all privy to. Yeah.
Yes. And so, as you mentioned, we need to remind our audience that we have a theme. Does it matter what topic we address, which angle we're coming from? We want to stick with a theme, and our theme is to have a conversation for the curious mind. And so, no matter what the topic, what the subject, what angle we approach it, we stand on the fundamental principle that this podcast is for those with a curious mind. And I believe, and those who are curious will come on board and engage us as we engage them. And so, just a quick reminder for if anyone have watched previous uh, podcasts we did. We talk about the breath in different aspects connected in correlation with sleep and our overall health and well-being, as well as digestive application and so on and so forth. Even though today we're going to talk about a somewhat different topic, but rest assured, it's all interconnected. And I just want to say just briefly that the idea of noise maker, as I talk about, for those of you sooner or later you're going to become very familiar, speaking to our audience, of this theme that we have adopted and a conversation for the curious mind, looking at what's going on in the world from a noise making perspective. This is our signature. And I know there are literally millions of people out there who's looking at what's going on in the world from an education point of view, from political point of view, from philosophical point of view, from psychological point of view, from different angle. And I am okay with all that. I have no choice but to. But I don't think there's anyone out there except Ryan and I who's taken a seat on this global conversation, looking at this world from this metaphoric point of view called noise maker. And then hopefully in the future, I will tell you why we choose this concept. And so what I want to share with our audience with regard to 7 rule for optimal well-being is how these noise that is coming at us, how it coming at us and how these noise are affecting us mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. And what is it we need to do? And there's a question I have for you. How do we nourishes our mental, emotional, and psychological well-being in this noisy, turmoil, and chaotic world? That's a question I did a brief this morning and released it on the web. That it's a question I ask myself every moment, every day, every time I'm going to face the world. I want to make sure that I'm mentally, emotionally, and psychologically prepared for the day that's given to me, because that's what I need. So that's a question I ask myself very frequently. How do I how do I nourishes my mental, emotional, and psychological well-being? That is very important. And the way to understand that, I have a schematic there in front of me. I'm looking at it. Hopefully, I can make it digital for people to see what I'm talking about. If you can take a quick look at it, Ryan. Okay, you see on one side it have you in the future. Okay, is it? Yeah, is it? And then over
Yep.
here,
Yep.
all right. So what this mean is, as you look at it, I have on one side we have 8 billion people coming at us. Okay, 8 billion people coming at us 24 hours a day. Okay, and this is the first time in the history of the world we have so much people alive at one time, and so
And connected. Yeah, let's not
connected.
forget that. Yeah.
Exactly. And so as these 8 billion people are coming at us, this is lots of noise. And so the question is also another question is not only we need to ask ourselves how do we nourish our mental, emotional, and psychological well-being, but do we feel a sense of overwhelm? Well, there's reason to feel overwhelmed because to interact with the world and all of its complexity today, you can rest assured you should feel overwhelmed. And if you do, you have reason to be.
Yeah, for sure. And
Okay.
there is a lot there. I guess it all depends on what you look at and what you choose to take in, because there's an algorithm that kind of pushes things out to you based on the things that you search for. But you can very easily be sidetracked or distracted from whatever your goals in life are just by the
Well,
noise that's made today. Yeah.
well, yes. Well, what we do understand at the hospital, that's something we talk about. We talk about that for many years. No matter where you are, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a president, an engineer, a teacher, a professor, a school teacher, a school bus driver, a truck driver, a cook, no matter where you are in your life, your mental, emotional, and psychological had determined how you're experiencing the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I
Okay.
always say perspective is reality. The way
Okay.
you perceive something is the way it is to you.
You're
There's nothing I can
experiencing
do
it.
to change that.
Okay. And so what I mean by and I appreciate the title we come out with, what we mean by the 7 rules for optimal well-being is I create a somewhat comparative analysis in two things. A, there are people who's alive today who are not experiencing the world are experiencing them, as opposed to people who are alive who are actually experiencing the world. And give me a minute, I will explain that. And what that means is that's the essence of the graph that I just showed you. And those 8 billion people in us, there is a residual aspect of the past. We are from the past. You can micro understand the past or you can micro understand it. There was a yesterday, there's a day before yesterday, there's a last week, there's a week before last week, there's last month. So there's a past that is in the present.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, without the past, you don't have the present. The
Well,
past has
exactly.
built and become what the present is.
Exactly. And so the past is actually manifested itself in the present. So we have 8 billion people. Not only is coming at us from the perspective of the present, how they're experiencing the present, but also the things they inherited, we all inherited from the past. And our struggle with the past are things that we want to reject from the past, and things we want to remove from the past, and things we want to keep. And so those noise are coming at us in the present. So and the 8 billion of us, the past is also present, and the present is coming at us. So these people um, uh, who the world are experiencing, when the world experiencing you, the world comes and find you wide open like a city without a gate.
Hmm.
And these are the people, the world who is experiencing them. That's what happened. You're wide open to the world. The world can come in and do whatever you want. These are the people who have a high threshold of anxiety, depression, frustration, irritability. They upset because the world is experiencing them. The world come and they find it. And so this is the key to have those 7 rules, and the people that have those 7 rules for the optimal health, these people are actually the one who experiencing the world. And this is how it goes. The first rule, or the first thing you need to have in your life that indicate you are nourishing your mental, emotional, and psychological well-being, the first thing you need to have structure in your life.
Structure.
Okay?
This is so important to me, guys, that I'm actually writing these down. So I would recommend anyone who's listening, please go grab yourself a pen and piece of paper. We'll wait. Do, 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 do. I hope you went fast because now we're getting back to it. Eddie, tell us
Yes.
why structure is important.
Everything in existence have a structure building into it. Everything
Everything in existence has
have a
a
structure building.
structure built into it.
Exactly. And human have one of the best uh, 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 systematic of structure built in, because our structural design have the ability to come out in the form of thoughts, response, decision making, pursued, have, hold, okay? And so we can, when we tapping into our structural design, which is built in within us, we can able to live optimal life. That's the idea. That is, if our life, if we tapping into our structural design. The animal have structural design. What tell the animal what to do? Well, the following. Now, in both biology and psychology, we call that instinct. The concept of instinct is the same as structural. You follow that structure. Well, if you follow it. Now, notice the animal follow the instinct without question.
Yeah.
Okay.
A squirrel's going to collect nuts before winter gets here, and he's going to hide them in 100 different spots.
It's following his
And the
instinctual
bear's going to
design.
sniff them out and eat his nuts. Yeah.
Okay. And so we human, when we tapping into our building design of structure, we have the ability to live optimally. And so the first rule, I have to have a structural design. Now the structure is already within me. I just need to tap into it. And so that's the first thing you need to indicate that you are nourishing. See, that's the key. You are nourishing your mental, emotional, and psychological well-being. The second things you need is to employ wisdom in your dealing, your decision making, including with yourself. Now, what is wisdom? Wisdom is the ability to have a way of move forward as well as go back. Is the ability to make decision, is the ability to not make decision. Wisdom is the ability for you to say, okay, I'm going to do this, but no, I'm not going to do that. Wisdom is the ability for you to say, okay, this thing I'm looking at, it looked hard, it looked challenging, and it's going to cause lots of frustration in me. Wisdom tell you that's probably exactly what you need to go through to get to where you want to be. Where with lack wisdom, you're going to say, this is too hard, and it's too difficult, I'm not going to do it. But that's precisely what you need to go through to get you from where you are to where you want to be. But without wisdom, you say, okay, now when I look at it, no, I'm not going to do this. You just reject it. Wisdom say, pay attention. Okay, that's probably the lesson you need to get you where you need to be. And so when you employ wisdom, you'll be able to say, okay, what is this? Why I'm doing this? Should I do this? How I should do it? You employed wisdom. Okay, and we can go more into detail. The third thing we need to indicate, remember, not only are you interact when you have those things, but those are the things when you use them. Remember, they're already built in within you. All you need to do is tap into it. When you do those things, your clear indicates that you are nourishing your mental, emotional, and psychological well-being. The third thing you need is to be emotionally intelligent.
Okay, you're really going to have to elaborate on that one. Emotionally
intelligent.
Okay.
Again, just like the other two we just mentioned, those are things that's already building. We all have the building paradigm to be emotionally intelligent. But unless someone tell us that, we don't know we need to tap into it.
But what is emotional intelligence? Like, we need to define this, I feel.
Emotional intelligence is the ability to connect with my emotion. It's the ability to pay attention to my emotion. It's the ability to understand other people's emotion. And it's the ability to not make decision emotionally.
So would you say that controlling your emotions as well?
Control our emotion. Okay, now we every decision you made will have emotion built into it, but do not use emotion as the primary determinant to make decision. So you can say, okay, you know what? This is how I feel about what you do, but I'm going to do this instead.
It's like that old rule, never shop when you're hungry.
Okay, I can say, listen, I'm very angry of what you do, but I see I'm not using my emotion to make decision. Okay, I'm not using my emotion to respond to the world. I'm not using emotion. For example, one of the things I used to do, my son used to be amazed when I do that. He was a handful and middle school. I mean, really a handful. That kid give those teachers so much.
They earned every penny, huh? Good
when
for
they
him.
when they see me, they used to say, "I think your dad was." I said, "Well, you don't know anything. They think he and I were so different." But anyway, they will call me, and my office was at Harrisburg. They will call me and say, "You need to come pick up your son because he did something that he need to get a premises. The school have no time to deal with your kids. You need to come pick him up." So I said, "Well, I'm at Harrisburg. It'll take me about 45 minutes." Driving 85, 90 miles an hour to get there. So I'm on my way. So I'm drop everything. And when I pick him up, Ryan, you know what I do? I say, listen to me, son. We're going to grab something to eat and I'm going to drop you over there and I'll see you later. He's like, Dad, I'm not in trouble with you. I said, no, son, you're already in trouble with the school. The last thing I want to do now is go there and then, battering you. No, son. I said, Dad, I said, son, I will never scold you when you do something wrong. We'll deal with that later. I already know. They already tell me. We'll talk about it. Let's grab something to eat. I'm going to drop you off. I'm going to go back to work. We'll see you later. I don't want to make a decision while I'm angry with the kid.
A lot of parents need to take that advice.
Okay, because what I'm
I
gonna
mean,
say,
yeah.
I'm gonna end up saying something to him later. I'm gonna say, son, I'm sorry, I should not say that. That's because I was emotionally upset because I have to leave work. I'm angry. I'm driving a D1. I can get an accident. See, if that's what I learned not to do that, not to do that. Just and he said, I see. Yeah, let's grab something to eat. I'll drop you off. And then 2, 3 days later, I said, well, actually, what happened at the school? Have a conversation. So I'm not using my emotion to deal with that because I know I'm upset. I already know I'm upset. Everything about me tell me I'm upset, but I know that's not the time to talk to the kid, drop him off, and then we see later.
I feel like that does two things though as well. That also let your son kind of marinate in what he's done and kind of let him also reflect. So when he's telling you why he did what he did, he has a comprehensive reason and a well
Now,
thought out.
you hit the nail right in the head. I can't tell you how many times Ryan is going to say that. Are we going to talk about what I do because I can't live with it? When are we going to talk about it?
Oh, I didn't even look at that aspect of it. So now he's sitting there stewing like, oh man, how much trouble am I actually
That's right.
in?
He
Oh,
wants to get
that's
over it.
that's 80% of the punishment.
That's it.
Oh,
That's it. That's it.
Eddie, that
Right
is
there.
some amazing advice because I
That's
can't
it.
tell you how many times that I made decisions that I regret, and I made those decisions just being an
In a heat
off
of
of emotion.
emotional,
He,
okay? And
so
that's
many regrets, and
intelligent. So what I do, I am dealing with myself before I talk to the kid
so
because
you've
I had
already been angry, you've already been
I
disappointed, you've already
exactly
been.
exactly. That's
That's
one of
all.
the time called the call me again, the call me again. So I have to deal with myself. Okay. And so that's emotional intelligence. It took me years to develop those concepts to realize, wow, I accomplished so much by not using emotion. Okay. And guess what? When we talk about it, we both are crying. And it's like that. I'm saying, son, don't be sorry. It's time to grow up. Okay. You don't worry about it. And so I have the emotion, but I'm not using it. And the emotional intelligence is when not to use emotional height to make decision. You can rest assured when I make the decision, there will be emotion. So we need to be emotionally intelligent. The fourth thing we need to indicate that we are nourishing our mental, emotional, psychological well-being is to be organized, is to have an internal organized. Now, when we say internal organized, we already have the paradigm, we already have this structural design to be organized, but we are so caught up in the external world, our day to day. what's happening in the world in our life put all of us in an autopilot survival mode. And so every day we get up, we have things to do, places to go, people to see. So we all operate in a survival mode, okay? And then we're not paying attention to the internal organization.
So by organized, you don't mean forks with forks, spoons with spoons, clothing folded. You or is that part of being organized? Is that external? Does the
No,
external world reflect the internal man? Is I guess the question I have.
the opposite. Yeah, the external reflect what's going on inside of me. Okay, so if I'm organized within, it will reflect without.
You
Okay,
will,
and
if you're organized within, you will fold your clothes and put them away. You
correctly,
will. I got you.
correctly. And so what happened is when we have a well organized life, internal organization, we prioritize. Okay, we're employed understanding. We know when to say no. We know when to say yes, no matter what's the pressure, no matter what's who wants it to be done. We know when to say no. We know when to say yes. We know when to say not now. I'm not okay with that. I need to process that. We have a well organized. If somebody can come at you, one of the way, if you all of my clients, it take them, some of them take more time to deal with that. When a client come to me, I have them on the schedule and they come in and say, Mr. Pierre, you can see the first few sessions always like this. Phew. Okay, what happened today? And then I begin to say, okay, excuse me, take a moment, relax, take a deep breath. Separate yourself from everything you brought in here. Driving, work, wherever you were, you bring it with you. Just leave it outside. Take a moment, breathe, separate yourself from whatever it is so you can be here present, hold all of yourself. Okay?
And
I,
be organized.
then exactly your
Especially
thoughts are
with your thoughts. Yeah.
exactly. At first they're like, oh, okay, because I and then we say, well, thank you. Thank
I
you.
can only imagine some of the thoughts people have leaving your office for the first time, Eddie.
I know this like it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
But later when you can see, wow, I like that. Thank you. Because some of them, they call me, I'm only a few minutes late. They come in. I said, you're not late. You're here when you're here. This is your time. Don't worry about it. We'll make it up. Don't worry about it. Take a moment to bring yourself together, focus, grounded. It's all about you. Don't worry about the time. So leave the driving behind. Whatever you were going through before you come here, it's behind you now. We want to focus on the here and now. So take a moment to organize your senses, your thought, your expressions. You need to organize that just to take a few minutes. So when it comes to the world, we need to have that organized system because the world is coming at us from every which way. And when the world come and find a complete disorganized, it just moved in. And so we have no defense against all the noise, all the proclivity, all the malevolence, all the ups and downs, all the challenges that coming at us from the world. And when those come, which they will, when they find you completely disorganized, oh, that's great. They just moved in. And so we need to have an organized system to organize our day-to-day activity with the world. And so that's it. The next
Absolutely.
the next
Absolutely.
one, we need to be a thinker. You need to think.
That's got me in trouble a lot.
You need to be a thinker. Okay. You need to live in the world. We need to think. The world need to come at you, and when the world reach you, is find a thinker
Mm.
because the world is coming at you with all kind of theory, concept, idea, okay, method, all kinds of
Fake
things,
news,
fake
left
news,
news, right
you,
news,
you name it,
biased news. Yeah.
exactly. And if you're not a thinker, you just take everything hook, line, and sinker,
Mm.
and
That's
no
how you end
one.
up in a cult.
That's why you feel overwhelmed because those things are completely unstructured, they're disorganized, they're coming from left to right, and they have no foundation. And you're trying to deal with all of that. No wonder you feel overwhelmed and you're not nourishing your mental, emotional, and psychological. So think. A thinker, well, because see what happened is in psychology, we understand that as as I share with you quite often, that I have a very active left brain. See, what happened when you're living in a broken world, one of the things that the world does to us, to all of us, we in an autopilot of fear. Am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to have that? Am I going to be able to buy a house? Am I going to be able to pay my loan? Am I going to be? We're constantly thinking. Am I going? Am I going? What happened is this fear building system the world created in us put our brain in what we call suspended between two doubts. We see the left and the right brain, we said in psychology, the brain of most people in the world suspended between two doubts. Afraid I'm not going to have enough of this, afraid I'm going to run out of time. Two doubts.
Two doubts.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have two doubts. Afraid
Yes.
I'm going to run out. I'm not going to have enough.
Correct. I'm going to run out of. Yeah.
Time is going to expire and I'm not going to achieve. Yeah, and it's odd because time, I feel, is the one thing that is always fleeting. As a being on this earth, whether you're a human or a dog, every day is one day closer to the last day. And yet people, wasting time.
They don't know
how much time is wasted,
right.
and what are you doing? I see people who play, I call them tippy tap games. You play a game where you got to tap and you got to keep tapping the screen. I don't understand them because I don't have that type of attention span. I can't just tap.
But see what happened from a psychological point of view, we know what those people are going through. They are overwhelmed. They're preoccupied with They're preoccupied with living. Society is coming at them for every which way. They have dream goals and aspiration. They watch them passing by almost like I'm not going to be able to do it. They're looking at John Doe, who seems to be doing good, and they want to know, why can I do good? Everything I try is not working. There's a constant wave. That's what I mean when the wave of them that constantly coming out of the children of thy neighbors seems to be doing good. People do that all the time. I say, hey, where's your son? He's going to college. Oh, I wish my son goes to college. It's like we constantly feel pressure to compare.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'm buying a house. I tell people, if you're buying a house, don't tell anyone that. But if anybody come to you, listen, guess what? We're buying a house. Now, the person you're talking to, unless you know them, but when you tell someone something like this that you don't know the person, you have no idea what you do with the person. The person probably is struggling to pay the rent.
And you're buying a house. Yeah. Or they may have just lost their house.
They just lost the house.
Maybe you're buying their house that they lost.
Exactly.
I buy houses at auction. So
I tell people that all the time. Ryan. If I'm going on vacation, I tell nobody. I never tell anybody I'm going on vacation. It's like, where were you? I've been away for a few days and working on some things.
Yeah, I remember not too long ago, I was trying to get a hold of you for like 3 days. I'm like, oh my God, did something happen to Eddie? Where's Eddie? And then out of nowhere, I get a message. Oh yeah, I was away for a couple of days. I like to leave my digital world behind. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, thanks.
I never tell people I'm going anywhere because
that's
I
good
don't
advice,
know the person's situation. This person vacation is probably driving to the beach on a weekend, okay, to take the kids just to tell themselves, oh, I took my kids to the beach. They don't have the finances to rent a hotel and stay there for a whole week. And then people come to say, oh, we're going away this week, gonna be for 2 weeks. You have no idea what, okay.
Yeah.
The idea is organized, know when to be a thinker, think about the other person, think about what this person may be going through. They're probably working overtime just to make ends meet. And that's what a thinker
so would you say that'd be a free thinker as well? That's someone who's free to explore ideas, free to expand on their thought process and their own views. Like, I'm a very agnostic person when it comes to theology. I don't believe in any one religion. We don't even need to get into it, but I'm just agnostic when it comes to that. I'm also agnostic in my education. I don't think the only place to learn something is out of a book. But I also think there are value in books. But at the same time, I don't see any issue with any avenue of education, whether it's hands-on, out the book, in a university, listening to a podcast. I have a friend, Andrew. What's up, Andrew? I know you're listening. But my friend Andrew, very intelligent, but not, he doesn't seem to be on the surface because he's not college educated, but he's listened to more Harvard. He sat into Harvard classes online, Stanford classes online. I mean, the guy is a wealth of knowledge who's never paid for a dime of college, but's been through hundreds of hours of online college courses and seminars. And I mean, he's a sponge of knowledge. Sometimes it's hard to talk to him because he knows so much. He's just one of those guys. It's like you start talking to him and next thing you know, he's giving you the history on the pen. And you're like, dude, whoa, wait, we were just talking about cars. Why are you telling me where Bic came from? You know,
he has the information.
Yeah, but he's a seeker, and he's a free thinker as well.
Free thinker is a different concept. When we put the term free in front of the term thinker, everyone have a building paradigm within us to think. And when we say that be a thinker, what we are looking at is because human being, living organism, we should say, primarily experience existence from a physiological and from a chemical perspective. And so we experience existence primarily from a physical perspective, and we don't tap into the inner world, the inner universe that is in us, which is one of it is the ability to think, to employ wisdom. One of the way I present those is the inner engineering within us, to tapping into this inner engineering, because there's much more to us than simply biochemistry. And so that's the concept of thinker. Now, when we say someone is a free thinker, that implies someone who's open to different venues and to explore different things. When we talk about thinking, be a thinker, we're talking about use that natural capacity that is in you. It's there for that, to use it to interact with existence, interact with the world around you, interact with the decision, the path you're taking. Use it because it's there, not just your biochemistry, which is feelings and expressions and response. We often do without thinking. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Well, because you were feeling, you were not thinking. And so, but when we say free thinker, we're talking someone who is a free spirit, if you want to call it, who's open to explore and try things. They have no problem trying things and looking into things. That's a different concept as opposed to simply think, because we're living in a world currently that technologies tell you not to think. I talk to clients a lot. I remember if I'm going to visit you in Pittsburgh, you just tell me where you live, and I sit with a pen, I write it down. I'm driving, and then the map is right next to me. I'm following it, which exits to take, and so on and so forth.
And then I'm going to stop at a payphone and call you when I'm close, and then you're going to tell me the turn by turn.
Exactly. We don't do that anymore. Today we have, this woman on
Send me your Addy.
That's it. We just Google it and it tell me, take the next right, 813, turn left. It's doing it for me. I don't have to think. So the technology have its pros and cons, but that's one. So be a thinker.
Okay? Yeah, they've actually done a study that shows that when you arrive to your destination and you had not used the GPS, you actually arrive there more in tuned, and your mind is working at a higher level than if you'd use turn-by-turn GPS. Because if you're using turn-by-turn GPS, you almost go on to autopilot.
But right? that's what the world put us
left. Okay, right. Okay, but if you're paying attention and you're driving somewhere, and you're especially a long distance. Like I take trips to Virginia, and sometimes I take trips to Buffalo, and I've done the same trip multiple times. I can drive to my destination with no GPS.
You should be able to do that.
You should always be able to do that, but I couldn't always do it. And I noticed, especially when I go to Virginia and I do this big hike in Virginia, we do it very often. I'm not going to tell anyone where it is because I like that a lot of people don't go there. But when I drive there, I feel so like, it's odd to say this, but I feel like a pioneer man who can just traverse the eastern seaboard and get to a place in the middle of the mountain, and I don't need a GPS. The GPS can be left at home. The phone can be left at home, and I can still get where I want to go.
Yes. So we need to, that's the idea, to be a thinker. So when the world come at you with all these ideas and theories and philosophy and concept, it finds a thinker. And remember, and the idea is, as a thinker, you are actually nourishes your mental, emotional, and psychological well-being. The next thing you need to have is you need to be someone who's paying attention.
Number 6 is pay attention.
Okay. Pay
The cheapest
attention.
payment you'll ever make in your life.
Paying attention. Okay. I tell people that all the time, and I'm sure people hear that all the time. Paying attention. Pay attention to fine
I can't tell
details.
you how many times I've heard parents telling their kids, hey, pay attention.
Pay attention. Okay.
Yeah.
People get in trouble all the time. What were you doing? I was not paying attention.
And then
Okay.
you rear-ended me.
You
And
need to sit, yeah, you pay attention.
Yeah.
And so when the world coming at you, the world need to find one of your strength, one of your ability, one of your tool, one of your resources is you are paying attention. People who pay attention will use wisdom in decision making. They will use emotional intelligence because prior to them facing anything, they were already thinking and they will pay attention when they face something. They have the ability to say, okay, I hear what you say, but I need some time to think about that. I need to look into it. So long as it's not a life-saving device, a situation. If someone fall and have a heart attack, you don't want to say, okay, what should I do? Okay, no, we're talking about a situation, event that you have the time to use wisdom to think about and to pay attention to it. So you want the world to come at you, and when it comes, which it will, it wants to come against you and find you someone who pay attention. It's very, very important to do that. And so pay attention is one of the tool or rules you need to employ, and you're dealing with the world and would indicate I am taking care of my mental, emotional, psychological well-being. The last thing you want to have, and that is crucial, you have to have what I call a focus understanding. Not
A
just an
focus,
understanding,
a
understanding.
focused or a focus?
Focus, 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 understanding. ED, you can put it on past tense.
Okay,
Focus, understanding. Okay?
gotcha.
FOCUSED, understanding. You have a focus understanding. What that means is a lot of people will say, well, I understand. Oh, they knew, but that's not what you did. Okay? I understand. Well, that's not what you're doing.
Yeah, I
Okay?
can't tell you how many times I have that at
Okay?
my
You,
9 to 5 job.
all
You try
right?
to explain something to someone and they're like, oh, yeah. No. I wouldn't be here if you knew what I was talking about. I would be over
Exactly.
there doing something completely different. I'm here because you don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, I
and
get frustrated.
we can see that in our relationship, particularly in an intimate relationship where the wife thinks the husband don't understand. The husband, you don't understand what I'm saying. You're not paying attention to me. This is not what I said, and no, I thought that. No, that's not what I said. We need to have a focus understanding. Focus understanding mean that I will take the time to pay close attention, and one of the things I tell my client all the time. Um, how do you know you're listening to someone when they're speaking to you? This is when you're looking at them and then you pay attention to what they say. Yeah, that all too. What else? I said that you need to know you're paying attention when you stop thinking about what you're gonna tell the person.
Yes, I have been saying this for a long time. There are a lot of people out there, and y'all need to stop because it's detrimental to you more than it is anyone else. When people speak, we all, and I'm guilty of it as well. I try to do it less, but we all have a tendency to wait for a pause so then I can speak. So the whole time I'm thinking about what I'm going to say and not listening to what you're are saying. And that's why a lot of times you'll notice conversations go around in circles and you have two people that are agreeing with each other. They're just using different words. So you have this constant circle of nobody's listening. Everybody's just waiting for the pause to say their piece and make their point or have their voice heard. But if you stop and listen and you are attentive in your listening, that becomes contagious in conversation.
Yep.
So the best way to get someone to listen to you is to first listen to them. And that's something that I had to learn over a long, extended period of time, being annoyed by people like, wait, dude, you weren't even listening to me. Because if you were, you wouldn't have just said what you said.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And so focus understanding is not easily distracted. Okay. Focus understanding have the ability to employ wisdom because I'm focused and I understand. Focus understanding, understand that I may not understand fully what you say, but I'm not going to reject it until I process it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you bring something to me, it probably make no sense. But just
We've
because
had
you make
many of those.
exactly
We've had many of those. Yes.
just because it makes no sense to me, I have to say, "Oh, that's wrong." No, you didn't
Well,
even take time to process it. Okay, and so that's someone who have a focused understanding, and so they're there to indicate that I am nourishing. Remember, this is not something I'm just, oh yeah, I'm going to do it. The goal of that is to nourish my mental, emotional, and psychological well-being as I'm interacting with this external world that is so complicating and this postmodern era that we live in. So I have to have a structured life. I need to employ wisdom in my dealing in a day-to-day activity with the world and with myself and the people close to me. I need to be emotionally intelligent. Remember, emotional intelligence is to pay attention to our emotion and know when not to use emotion to make decision. Use your emotion as part and parcel of make decision, but not the sole.
and yeah, and know when not to speak as well.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yes, it's interesting you say that. One of the story a teacher told us in school, the difference between a smart and a smart and intelligent, well-educated person versus a wise man. There's the well-educated, smart, intelligent man tell the king what the king needs to hear. The wise men know when not to say it because that can be your head.
That's
Exactly. The
very
wise men
true.
know when not to say
Wise
it.
man knows when to say.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
the
don't
king
need to
might
know
not want to hear the truth,
that.
especially in front of all his lords.
Yeah,
That's
that's
right.
true too. Yeah,
That's right. So
especially be told wrong.
exactly. The wise men know when not to say it, but the intelligent, smart guys say the king need to hear the truth. Well, that's your head. Okay.
Yeah,
And so
sight and
we
setting matters.
to be emotionally intelligent, to have an organized, remember the thing organized, we're talking about an internal organization that will reflect in our external dealing with the world and with ourselves and the people close to us.
So
Go ahead.
just to touch on this one, if you notice that your external life is unorganized or in disarray, maybe start before you try to organize your home, start to internally organize, and that will in turn reflect itself, correct?
Just reverse what you said.
Reverse what I said. So organize my home, and
No,
then that will.
well, the way you say it is if I know my internal is disorganized, reverse it. When your external life is disorganized, it's because you're disorganized
It's
inwardly.
because you're disorganized inside. So
It's reflecting out,
take a moment and organize your internal
and
thoughts,
then
your internal
it,
being,
and it
and that will in turn
affect the
offer up
external.
some organization.
Correct. If you organize inside, you can rest assured it will reflect on the outside. And so always begin within. Always begin within.
These are some really good little pieces of advice.
That's what
Like
we call it.
I'm growing sitting here talking to you. So I
7
hope
rules
everyone
for
who
optimal
listens,
well-being.
optimal well-being.
Okay.
Love it.
And the next one, to be a thinker, please think, think, think. Pay attention and have a focus understanding. Have your understanding to be focused. And then when the world come at you with all this proclivity, with all this malevolence, you find what? He's structured. I can't get into him. He's organized. Okay, he's a thinker. I can't convince him. I can't deceive him. I can get him to do what I want. So when the world coming at you, the world's fine. Oh, he's paying attention. But those are the parameters that protect you mentally, emotionally, and psychologically, and that's how you're nourishing them. Or if you
And that
don't have, go ahead.
and that will keep us out of cults as well. It's the
Correct.
best way. Yeah.
Correct.
Stay out of
Correct.
cults, guys. Cults are bad.
Okay, and so when the world come and find you unstructured, you lack wisdom, you completely
Mm.
emotionally unintelligent, it come at you and say, open up your swallow everything, and then your
Mm.
life become cluttered, you overwhelm, and thus creating all the external chaos in your life. So be organized, be structured, use emotional intelligence. If you don't know, there's a place I tell you you can become part of it. Become part of Conversation for the Curious Mind. You will learn a lot about how to develop those tools to be organized, be structured, emotionally intelligent, pay attention, and so on and so forth.
If
Thank you.
nothing else, you'll at least have a name for them.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, that's one
that'll be a
thing
beginning.
that's a big part of it, Eddie. Like actually identifying. I mean, we had a conversation just the other day. The last part of the Breathe series
Hmm.
that we did a 3-part series on the breath or to
Yes,
breathe. The elevated stress and
elevated stress.
how elevated stress comes about. I re-listened to that podcast today when I was at work. And first off, it's weird listening to yourself talk. For anyone who hasn't done it, I recommend that you do it because you'll become a better talker.
Yeah,
I noticed things that I do sometimes, and I'm going to try to be better as we progress here. But just how to deal with and how to identify your stressors, mitigate your stress. That is obvious. It's obvious
the minute
when you
you
say
do
it.
that,
It's
that's right.
but to put it down into words and to put it out there that okay, yes, we all have stress. We need stress to wake up. Oh, I have to make a correction too, because when I listened to it, I realized I made a pretty bad error in my terminology. We do not have cortisone in our body. We have cortisol. And I
Yeah.
am sorry to everyone who listened, who was probably beating their heads on the wall, calling me an idiot, and whatever else. I deserve it. It is not cortisone. Cortisone is used to relieve pain in joints and and muscles, commonly used by athletes. I mean, they shoot cortisone shots into athletes mid-game so they can get back out there and play. Cortisol is the chemical that the brain releases due to stress, any
Yes,
stressor.
yes, but
But
go
it's
ahead.
it's needed
It's
to wake us
natural.
up.
Yeah, it's
It's
natural.
natural.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really thinking about that today too. Of course, it's natural. You'd have to have stress. Otherwise, you're not going to defend yourself from the big cats. You're not going to prepare yourself for the winter months that are coming. As the temperature starts to get colder, that had to put stress on the human mind and had to drive that person. Hey, you got to wake up and you got to get firewood. You got to find food. You got to bale up your hay so you can feed your, and just progressing into where we are today. I think that consistency matters. And like you said, you can't just come home from work one day and feel like you were too stressed and do a breathing exercise and all of it goes away.
Hmm.
These are the things that Eddie and I speak of and talk about. These are things that, if implemented on a consistent basis, it's guaranteed to just make life better, make you better, help you to improve and help you to progress. We're not telling you how to live your life. We're
No.
telling you how we live ours. That's all we're doing. How Eddie, what we're doing is we're telling you how Eddie lives his life. Because don't do what I do, guys. I'm trying to figure it out too.
Yes. And then one last thing I want to tell with our audience is the concept of knowledge. Knowledge is critical, okay, to the quality of life you live. Knowledge is
Knowledge is
critical to the quality of life you're living. So knowledge, be aware of your structure. What's going on in my life? That's what I mean. Don't be afraid to say, okay, what's going on in my life? Instead of say what's going on in the world, ask yourself, what's going on in my life? if you have a good knowledge, a good idea what's going on in your life, you'll be able to understand what's going on in the world. Because when we talk about, see, the world reflect us. It reflect 8 billion people. So when you see what's going on in the world, you just see what's going on in people's life. But start at home. What's going on in my life? Have this knowledge of what's going on in your life. That's the beginning of organizing your life. Know what's going on in your life. Understand what's going on in your life. Pay attention to what's going on in your life. Again, understand what's going on in your life. You don't want to have things going on in your life and you have no understand what's going on in your life. You're not paying attention to what's going on in your life. Your life is not organized. It's completely unstructured. And that's mean you're about to have a nervous breakdown very soon if that's the quality of your life. Pay attention to what's going on in your life. Begin to organize your life. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about taking personal responsibility to have a knowledge base to the quality of life at which you're living. You can rest assured you'll be mentally, emotionally, and psychologically well-being will be optimal. Thank you.
These are the whole foods
That's
of
right.
the
That's
body,
right. That's right.
of the
That's right.
internal. Yes,
Organic.
this is the organic food
Yes.
for your well-being.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, whole foods for the soul.
Yes. Yes.
If you will. All right, guys. I can't really think of any other questions, but I would like to leave us with a quote. It's an Albert Einstein quote, and he said, "When technology exceeds human intellect, we will be faced with a generation of idiots."
Ooh.
Let's try and prove him wrong, guys. I think we can do better.
That's good wisdom.
Very good wisdom. Good night. Oh, for us, it's good night because it's wee hours. It's wee hours now. We don't need to talk about it, but it's late. This has been Conversation for the Curious Mind. It is a production of In Search Innovation. I'm sorry, guys, it is late. And before we go, I'd like to give a little plug here to a friend of mine who has written a book. You guys can find this book on the internet, and I strongly recommend it. The name of the book is In Search of Meaning and Purpose Through Living, Structure, and Functions.
Did we just talk about structure?
We did, didn't we? That's why I brought it up today, buddy. The subtitle for this book is Born Without a Trace, which if you want to learn more about this or if you actually want to obtain a book, I'm going to share a link in this. I'll put it in the comment section.
Yes.
And we'll have a link that you can buy this book direct. The author is Dr. Eddie Pierre. And the deeper I get into this book, not very deep, but the deeper and the more involved that I get into this book, the more and more I'm enjoying it. I'm being honest with you. It's the type of book, though, that you don't read it front to back. It's the type of book where you read it, you sit down, and you have to go back and read it again because you're not really quite sure how to digest it.
Thank you.
But I recommend that to anyone who's really enjoying what we're doing here. That book right there will open your eyes up to many things.
Yes.
Again, this has been Conversation for the Curious Mind, a production of In Search Innovation. May the conversation continue.
Until next time. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Eddie.